Next on the news. Help from 5,000 miles away. Brooklynites refuse to stay on the sidelines and take action to help Turkish victims desperate after the quake.
We're considering all options.
Life after tragedy. Students and faculty are figuring out how to move forward after a deadly shooting.
Delta 1943, cancel takeoff clearance.
Issues in the sky and on the ground. The FAA is being reviewed after months of chaos. Plus, literally chasing church news, what it was like to cover Catholic news for half a century in Brooklyn and Queens. I'm Christine Persichetti. This special edition of Currents News starts right now. Answering the call, people at the Turkish Cultural Center in Brooklyn want to help their community after a devastating earthquake crippled so many in the Middle East. As Currents News' Jessica Easthope shows us, being more than 5,000 miles away can't stop them.
This is the last of it. Since the 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria in the early morning hours of February 6th, the Turkish Cultural Center has been collecting thousands of items, from diapers and baby food to blankets and clothes. A full flight's worth of cargo airlifting the supplies from Newark Airport to Turkey every day through the Embrace Relief campaign. This is the 9th and final shipment.
Those are our people, those are our friends, our family members. When we start to see the pictures and videos and from drones, from from the earthquake area, we realize that it's maybe the largest one.
Pampers maybe could be there.
Jackson Guvin is the coordinator of the Brooklyn Turkish community's donation and fundraising efforts. They asked people to bring supplies to the Brooklyn Amity School in Sheepshead Bay until Turkey said they had enough. Jackson said people of all ethnicities and faiths have supported their mission.
Give me a hope that being in unite is the strongest thing. I saw a lot on this disaster that they opened their hearts, I believe.
The lobby of the school has been a central location, but Principal Adam Olimi says they've had the ability to help people through a disaster a world away at their fingertips, thanks to the power of social media.
So I think it's one of the greatest things we can do, at least like fast, easy access, less resources used. So of course that was the first thing we've done, to share the link on our social media account.
Some of the boxes.
Now Jackson says the Turkish community is looking toward achieving a long-term goal, getting the country's authorities to ensure the surviving buildings and new construction can withstand another quake.
We are looking to the future now, and I'm praying that the authorities gonna get a lesson from this disaster and will get the proofs and agreements quick.
Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
You too can support the Turkish Cultural Center of Brooklyn's efforts. Visit embracerelief.org and click on Donate Now. The Diocese of Brooklyn is trying to help the people of Turkey and Syria. This weekend, they're asking all parishes to take up a second collection. That money will be sent to the Catholic Near East Welfare Association to help get the earthquake victims basic supplies like food and medication. You can also send a check to the diocese to aid in their efforts. Just make it payable to the Compostela Fund of the Archdiocese of Brooklyn with the notation Syria and Turkey, and mail it to the Diocesan Finance Office. That's at 310 Prospect Park West in Brooklyn, New York, and the zip code 11215. The Catholic Church wants quake victims to know that it's there for them. The prefect of the Dicastery of the Eastern Churches, Archbishop Claudio Gugarati, is visiting Syria and Turkey. The Archbishop wants to show people that the Pope is close to them. He's there now until Tuesday. He'll meet with local bishops along with volunteers and workers that are helping victims. The Holy Father is helping out with the relief efforts, too. It just arrived in the Middle East, but Pope Francis gave 10,000 thermal shirts to earthquake victims. The shirts are very much needed. It's been unseasonably cold in the area with temperatures well into freezing territory. He's also providing financial aid to Syria through the country's apostolic nunciature. The Michigan State University community continues to mourn the loss of 3 students after Monday's mass shooting on campus. School leaders are now trying to figure out how to move forward and when to return to campus life. After a gunman opened fire on Michigan State University's campus on Monday night, the Spartan community says they're left feeling numb, and returning to campus doesn't feel right just yet.
People should be able to leave their kid out of university and feel safe that they're going to be okay.
3 students were killed. 5 others are fighting for their lives at Sparrow Hospital in Lansing.
The day that the shooter came and took so much from us also took our sense of safety.
Empathizing with students while still processing the mass shooting, interim president Teresa Woodruff says they're working out details on how the rest of the school year will look.
We're considering all options for the manner in which we continue the continuity of education, research, and outreach on this campus. We've been talking about places and spaces and where education will continue, and certainly those 2 buildings are central to some of those conversations.
Students say they can't imagine returning to campus, let alone Berkey Hall and the student union where people were shot.
We're never going to feel like we truly felt before this happened.
And the university says they are listening.
I believe we are a strong community, and we will not allow a single individual to take our university from us. And we heard that loud and clear from many of our students. We are still processing.
Planning to take back the place they call home, their university. While classes are set to resume on Monday, this weekend, the Catholic community will lay to rest one of those victims. A funeral mass will be held for Brian Frazier at St. Paul on the Lake Church on Saturday. The parish held a prayer service for the sophomore earlier in the week, where other MSU students and St. Paul School alums prayed for the repose of his soul. The Diocese of Lansing has been helping the MSU community mourn this awful tragedy. Priests on campus have been on hand to help those dealing with the trauma of the shooting, offering whatever comfort they can to those who are struggling.
Some of them, they don't know where they're going to eat. Are the dorms feeding them, right? And so we're here, and we're trying to offer. We have Sherry Drayton, I also notice here, who can provide some counseling. So psychological, spiritual, even physical support, anything we can do to help. Tragedies are real, and you can't pretend them away, right? But you also have to see them wrapped around and somehow absorbed into this love of Christ. And you can't always see that element, but it's there.
The church is praying for the victims and their families, those who are recovering from the shooting and those who are struggling following the event. Several people are recovering after a U-Haul driver went on a rampage in Bay Ridge Monday, striking 8 people and killing 1. The driver, 62-year-old Weng Sor, was arraigned on Wednesday. He faces charges of second-degree murder, attempted murder, and assault. While in custody, a judge has ordered Sor to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. He will appear in court again in March. 2 congressmen from New York are demanding early documents related to 9/11 be released. Representatives Jerry Nadler and Dan Goldman are calling on New York City Mayor Eric Adams to hand over information that was collected about the toxins at Ground Zero between September 11, 2001 through the spring of 2002. They say they want to know exactly what the Giuliani administration knew about the hazards in Lower Manhattan when they were claiming it was safe for New Yorkers to return. Some passengers looking to spend the long weekend abroad found a number of issues Friday after a JFK terminal was shut down. Terminal 1, which serves more than a dozen international airlines, remained closed on Friday due to an electrical panel failure, which resulted in a small isolated fire Thursday night. That created a power problem that impacted the terminal's ability to accept inbound and outbound flights, causing them to close on Friday. It's caused a cascading amount of problems at the Queens Airport, including flights canceled or forced to turn around and passengers being bused to other airports. The shutdown at JFK comes after a long string of incidents that have been happening at airports around the country, and the FAA is facing heat for it. This week, a Senate committee grilled the agency's leader who promised an investigation. Mike Valerio has that story.
The acting head of the Federal Aviation Administration ordering a sweeping review of the agency following near collisions,
Delta 1943, cancel takeoff clearance.
close calls,
It was very close, and we believe less than 100 feet.
and a crippling computer outage that temporarily grounded flights nationwide last month.
We're missing the first week
for a funeral.
Appearing before the Senate Commerce Committee Wednesday, acting FAA Administrator Billy Nolan says air travel has never been safer, but acknowledged the problems plaguing the aviation industry.
And I say to the American public that we are safe. The answer is that we are. If the question is, can we be better? The answer is absolutely.
Nolan said accelerated efforts to upgrade the NOTAM safety messaging system that failed in January will mostly be completed by mid-2025, but said that vulnerabilities remain in that system, which is responsible for providing pilots with critical pre-flight safety information.
Could I sit here today and tell you there will never be another issue on the NOTAM system? No, sir, I cannot.
Recent near collisions that have also raised concerns, including one between a FedEx cargo plane and a Southwest jet in Austin last week, are currently under investigation, but Nolan says FAA safety measures prevented potential disasters.
When we think about the controls, how we train both our controllers and our pilots, the system works as it's designed.
Yet Nolan says sustaining and implementing these systems means a lot of work ahead.
Recent events remind us that we cannot and must not become complacent and must continually invest in our aviation system.
Mike Valerio, Currents News.
As the FAA continues to fix its failures, a 24/7 Eucharistic chapel is now open at Atlanta Airport, giving passengers a quiet space from all the chaos. Travelers and airline workers can use the Atlanta Interfaith Chapel at the busiest airport in the world. The chapel, which is located in the International Terminal, will be there permanently after the Archbishop of Atlanta blessed it on Monday before catching a flight. On average, 300,000 passengers fly through the airport daily, and 64,000 workers are on staff at any given time. During this Black History Month, the Diocese of Brooklyn is celebrating the accomplishments of Black Catholics. The Mass at the Cathedral of St. Agnes was coordinated by Brooklyn's Vicariate of Black Catholic Concerns and the Diocese of Rockville Center's Office of Multicultural Diversity. Among the highlights of the Mass included colorful attire and passionate vocals by the Sister Thea Bowman Choir, named after an African-American nun who's up for sainthood. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan, was the main celebrant and highlighted Black Catholic history as a rich part of the church's legacy.
There are lessons that we need to learn from that legacy. There are some painful reminders within that history of examples of either racism or neglect, and those are things we have to learn from. That said, it's not just about that. It really is celebrating the gifts. Just being at Mass and seeing the church in prayer and in song shows the spirituality of the African American culture.
Bishop Brennan also remarked on the great diversity of the Mass, which included multiple nationalities like African and Caribbean Americans. There's a lot more news headed your way. Catholic Journalism Through the Years, the new book showcasing decades of Christian news. A first for the United States, the new shrine that's dedicated to America's first martyr, Father Stanley Rother. And there's no stopping these people, the church service that's been going on for days. You've probably seen him at your church. For 50 years, Ed Wilkinson has been writing and capturing your faith in the tablet newspaper. And now he's taking all that amazing imagery and putting it into a book. This week, Ed joined me on Currents News to talk about his new book, Chasing Church News.
I have photos there from all 50 years that I worked with the tablet. I went through all my old negatives and old shots, and I pulled out one or two from each year, and I put them together in this book. And so it's really a nice, it's a nice collection of photos that says who we were as a diocese over these last 50 years.
And you said that you've probably taken hundreds of thousands of photos. So how did you choose the ones that are in here? How'd you whittle it down?
Well, that's a tough question, but over the years, I'd been putting certain photos aside. You know, when I got a shot and I particularly liked it, so I'd make an 8x10, I'd frame it, I'd put it on my wall. So I had certain favorites that I kept.
Right, okay.
And I said, well, that became the foundation of it. You know, so then I had to go through all the old negatives so to fill in some of the years where I didn't have anything. And we went through all the negatives and all of the digital photos over the last 20 years, and that's the results.
Okay, so what would you say are, I don't know, your top 3 pictures in this book?
Well, you know, each one is a favorite, but back in the 70s, I took a picture of a little kid drinking water out of a hydrant, and I just thought it said something to me about the poverty of the neighborhood at the time and the refreshment of that water, you know, and the kid. I love that shot. And then I got a picture of Mother Teresa in the 90s, 1992. She came to speak at a convention in the city for the Knights of Columbus. Only time I've ever seen Mother Teresa.
Wow.
But I got a shot of her then there. And then there's another photo that I particularly like because it won an award as the best news photo in the Catholic press. And it's a picture of a Korean woman at a prayer service in St. Sebastian's Woodside. It was a Korean jet that had been shot down, and her brother was killed in that, and they were having a vigil. So it happened to be just a very poignant shot of, you know, the event.
Yeah, so many stories.
Yeah.
So I know the proceeds from this book go to the Tablet, one of the few remaining Catholic newspapers in the country.
Well, first we have to pay for the production of the book.
Of course, but then the other money that comes in from all those books being bought. Why is Catholic journalism so important?
I think Catholic journalism is very important because we've got to get our story out there, you know, and nobody else is going to tell our story. I mean, that's really the main reason that we should have Catholic journalism, Catholic newspapers, Catholic TV, because the story is not told from the point of view of the church. When I read something in other newspapers, secular newspapers, and I'm saying, they've missed the point completely. You know, they don't know what they're talking about, and we're talking from a Catholic frame of view, a Catholic frame of reference, and there's a particular story that we want to get out there, and so I think these things are essential if we want to continue to tell the story of who we are as Catholics.
And now people who buy this book can become part of our mission to keep Catholic journalism alive. Why do you think people should become members of the Tablet?
It's vital these days that there be another way of financing newspapers, because there used to be circulation and advertising. Well, that just doesn't cut it anymore. So, you know, we have to be smart, we have to be creative, we have to find ways to get the funds to keep these newspapers afloat. So this is just another way of financing it, you know, offering these packages to people. In return, they get a lot of stuff, you know, including my book, but they also get tickets to concerts and tickets to baseball games and tickets to lectures. So you become part of the Tablet family.
That was Ed Wilkinson, editor emeritus of the Tablet. More and more dates on Ed's book signing tour are coming up. To find one near you and keep up to date on all future signings, just go to thetablet.org. And if you can't get to one of those book signings, you can still become a part of the Tablet's membership program and get your hands on Chasing Church News. For just $50, you'll not only get the paper sent straight to your mailbox, you can gift a subscription to a friend, plus get access to the Tablet's online content and a quarterly newsletter, and get a commemorative drawstring bag and pin. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Gift $100 and you'll become a sponsor, getting everything we just mentioned, plus a Tablet baseball cap, and be a part of the recognition listing on the paper's website. Contribute $250 and you become a patron, and among the things added to your list of perks are 4 tickets to Tablet Appreciation Night at the Cyclone Stadium and free VIP access to certain diocesan events. For $500, you become a benefactor of the Tablet. You'll get a signed copy of Ed's book and an invitation to the annual Catholic Communications Mass and Reception. And if you give $1,000, you will become a founder. That'll secure you an invitation to the annual Editors Roundtable Reception. The first martyr from the United States officially has a shrine. Archbishop Paul Coakley of Oklahoma City anointing the altar and walls of the Father Rother Shrine during a Mass on Friday. The church was modeled to be a replica of the sanctuary in Guatemala where the first U.S.-born blessed served. Father Rother was killed in 1981 while defending the rights of his parishioners. The Mass was packed with people who came near and far to remember the priest and honor his faith. Speaking at the dedication, Archbishop Coakley encouraged Catholics to spread the word about Father Rother's life and mission.
My friends, it is our responsibility. It's our privilege to work to make Blessed Stanley Rother, martyr, better known, to spread his cult, as we call it in the church, to increase devotion to him. And it shouldn't be hard. The more we know about his life, we find in Stanley Rother a very attractive figure, so relatable, a real everyman, ordinary, like us.
The shrine is the final resting place of Father Rother, whose body was moved there earlier in the week. While his body is not available for public viewing, people can visit a pilgrim center and a museum highlighting his life and works at the site. Still to come on Currents News, why a service in a chapel at a small university in Kentucky is attracting people from all over the country. And a museum in D.C. apologizing for how it treated some pro-lifers. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. After March for Life, participants were asked to leave because their clothes had pro-life messages on them. The National Archives Museum says it'll make sure that never happens again. Administrators at the museum signed a legal agreement saying it was a mistake and future visitors will not have the same problem. The museum also issued an apology to the marchers and offered them a tour. People were celebrating life at St. Pius Church in Jamaica, Queens. A massive baby shower was held. Catholic Charities and its partners assisted new parents from the neighborhood, teaching them about car safety seats and safe sleep. There were also lots of giveaways. Some of the items were bottles, bibs, rattles, and more. What began as a chapel service on February 8th has become a long-running celebration. This university church service is being called a revival. And as Chad Hedrick shows us, people are coming from all over the country to join in.
For students at Asbury University, what's happening this week on their campus, they can only describe as an act of God.
The last several days have kind of blurred together. The passing of time is no longer a thing.
A service led by students that started on Wednesday, still going strong the following Monday, and no signs of ending.
Just our usual service and praying and singing, and then it just didn't stop.
People are driving and even flying in from all over to witness and take part in this movement. Mississippi, Texas, New York, and even California.
A lot of people have asked me if it was manufactured or set up, and I would just say, I don't think you can manufacture freedom. I don't think that you can manufacture joy.
For the second night in a row, the main auditorium was so full, overflow spaces had to be created, but many choosing to stand outside the doors and listen.
Everybody wants to be in a community and everybody wants to be wanting the same thing. So, I mean, it's crazy on the one hand, but it also makes total sense.
As for when this service might end, some students say it won't ever be over, just take on new life and meaning.
It will slow down, and I think when it slows down, I think there's going to be a huge commissioning, and I think it's going to be this is great, and this has been a crazy awesome week, but the spirit that's here is within believers, and so when they go out, it's not going to shrink. It's going to keep going and going and going.
That was Chad Hedrick reporting. And talk about a flexible faculty. They're excusing students who are visiting the chapel instead of going to class. Wow. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.